Yo, what's up guys? Amanda here, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I am actually doing a little bit of a, kind of like a film theory thing. Now, I'm not necessarily somebody who's super into film theories. I'm a pretty big proponent in that sometimes you just gotta let things happen. I think one of the major issues with some big franchises is that people get so wrapped up in what they think the story should be that they don't focus on what it actually is. And some people just, they build things up in their heads so much that whatever the final product is never gonna deliver. Unless you're Infinity War, because I don't think I found anybody who was disappointed by that. But today we're not talking about Infinity War, we are talking about Solo. And if you have an issue with Solo, just, why are you here? Like, just dislike the video and go. Like, don't actually dislike the video. It'd be cool if you didn't do that. Anyways, getting into the actual little plot point of this that I want to discuss, it's QI'RA. Now, I'm sure a lot of people had similar reactions to me when it came to the QI'RA character. I personally like Emilia Clarke as an actress. I think she's come a really long way since the early days of Game of Thrones when she used to kind of get a fair amount of backlash.
I am not your little princess. I am Daenerys Stormborn of the blood of old Valyria, and I will take what is mine. With fire and blood, I will take it.
Yes, my lady.
I never had a huge issue with it, but I remember a guy I worked with hated her. I'm gonna have to ask Mike. I don't think you're watching this, but do you still hate Emilia Clarke and just all the yelling? But how is she gonna fare in a Star Wars movie, and what kind of character were they gonna make for her? Initially, and I assume that a lot of other people shared this same opinion, I thought she was just going to be a random love interest so that they had to have one in the movie just to spice things up a bit, just to add that extra demographic. Movies are constantly going out of the way to try to get the most people they can into a seat. So I kind of assumed that QI'RA's character was just a one-off love thing that he was going to have to deal with because obviously they can't have Leia in this movie. But I was pleasantly surprised, and I think a lot of other people were pleasantly surprised as well. Instead of just getting this run-of-the-mill romance-style character, we get somebody with a really rich, deep background. You get somebody who has conflict, who's potentially addressing a situation in the Star Wars universe that's never really been looked at. Or I guess maybe it has kind of been looked at. Now with QI'RA, there's like a two-faceted thing. I am extensively interested in what happened between the time that Han makes it off Corellia and she gets stuck behind and when they reunite when he is on the mission with Beckett. But then there's the whole new venture of what happens to QI'RA after the end of Solo. So I personally assumed that by the end of the movie, she was going to be dead. Because I know, going forward, he has to be single. He has to be this scavenging space scoundrel that is just blasting through the galaxy with Chewie until he runs into Luke. And literally, that is all that there is. You know that she's not around when the events of the original trilogy take place. So I assumed that she was going to die at the end of this because I assumed that this was going to be a self-contained story the same way that Rogue One was a self-contained prequel going into A New Hope. I assumed that this was going to be a one-off, but what we got was the potential for some pretty amazing sequels. I'm actually more excited in what the world they've kind of created with Solo is than what we're going through with the regular trilogy. And I'm clearly not the only person who's been fascinated by this character. Now, before we get into some of the stuff that could be happening to her in the future, let's go over what makes her a little bit better than the classic just thrown in female romance. So for one, she's extremely self-sufficient. They specifically mentioned that she has experience with this martial art called Terrace Cassie, so she's clearly self-sufficient in a way that doesn't seem unusual when she does actually have to put those martial arts abilities to the test. It's not just this person who's suddenly amazing at fighting. It's clear that she's gone through some shit and learned some shit along the way. The really interesting thing that's brought up with her is the branded mark on her, which kind of opened up a lot of questions, and the fact that she's got this relationship with Dryden Voss, and while it seems like they're in some kind of romantic relationship, she doesn't seem like she's willingly along with it, but at the same time, she's considered a lieutenant. And I don't think that that's like a shadow name. I don't think that's just something they're like, oh yeah, we call her lieutenant, but like, I actually think she is. So I don't know if that's some kind of like twofold thing that because he saved her off Corellia, they have to be in some kind of relationship together. That's the deal that she's currently stuck with. But through that, she's also become a lieutenant in this operation under the Crimson Dawn title that Dryden Voss is a part of, because the branded mark on her is the Crimson Dawn logo, or at least what I'm assuming is the Crimson Dawn logo. At first, I think we all thought it was just kind of like Dryden Voss's like branding on her, but then the ring is what she uses to contact. I'm just gonna say it. What she uses to contact Darth Maul, who is the leader behind the entire criminal organization that they're going through. So I don't know if that was her, that was just like, I'm branded to this organization, but it still comes across like a pimp tattoo. So does that open up an entire other area of like sex trafficking, and she managed to just work her way up the ranks, and she is just so focused on self-sufficiency? Either way, makes for a very interesting character, and I want to know what happened I want to know the entire story leading up to that moment, because she's a compelling character. Now let's get into what that could mean for the future of the franchise, where it is going. Obviously, they have mentioned that they're making other solo styles, not solo, but Star Wars stories. So there's an Obi-Wan Kenobi one coming out, and they just announced a Boba Fett one. And either of those could honestly tie into the storyline depending on what area you're doing and what timeline. So they can exist in the prequels, before the prequels, after the prequels, and then like all around the surrounding of the original trilogy itself, except Obi-Wan, obviously. And Boba can even go after if you read some of the books, and a lot of people, you might be like, well, that's stupid. He fell in a Sarlacc pit. Yeah, here we are. Now, this isn't really me looking into the whole Maul situation. I could make a separate video on that, but all you need to know is that Darth Maul was brought back in the original Clone Wars series. I had a ton of issues with that at the time, but I think he's a great villain, so I'm cool with it. Now, the moment of his reveal is very interesting. QI'RA obviously takes the ring of Dryden after she kills Dryden. That there are a lot of different interpretations for what happened in that moment. So a lot of people are saying that she ends up abandoning Han on that planet so that she can save him, essentially. That if they just all disappear, Darth Maul will hunt them down and Han would end up dying. So she actually goes to him as a way of making sure he never finds out that Han was even there, or at least hoping that he finds out Han was never there. And there's a couple things that kind of back that up. So right when he's about to take Dryden out, or like it seems like he's about to take Dryden out, she jumps in the way. She actually jumps up and she takes him out instead. She fights with him, and she's the one who actually deals the killing blow to him. Now, there's a couple reasons why that could be. On one hand, it could be if I'm the one who kills him and I just lie, and then he finds out I'm lying, then he'll just kill me for killing him. He won't know that there was another person involved. Another reason is that she knows very well what he is and kind of what he does, and wants to be in that position of power. She doesn't want Han to die, but she wants to move forward. She wants to be part of this criminal syndicate, and that's what she's into. I didn't necessarily get the impression as I was going through the movie that that's what she was like, but the big thing with Beckett was just like, don't underestimate people. Don't expect what people are going to do. Like, everybody's going to turn on you, and people are different than what you think they are. And he obviously like lends home that he shouldn't trust QI'RA. So I just kind of see it as like her killing him, kind of almost like the rule of two, is that like if he's going to have a direct second in command, the current second in command can't exist. There's clearly some kind of training going on. Dryden Voss had those knives that seem to have like lightsaber blade tips and like on the sides of the blades. So I feel like there is at least some kind of training going on there with the second in command. And one of the things that leads me into seeing her as a potential apprentice to Darth Maul is that moment when he ignites the lightsaber and the red glints in her eyes. You could just say it's to let people see the lightsaber, that the lightsaber is just this really cool thing that they want to highlight. But in my mind, the red glint in her eyes is a really good film property of like of foreshadowing. Like, you show stuff like that. Sorry, my cat wanted to jump up on the window. Are you blocking the lighting now? Okay, whatever. When you show things like that in movies, it oftentimes alludes to other things, like light reflecting in somebody's eye like that could be a massive amount of foreshadowing to her being some kind of Sith apprentice. Not that she's necessarily Force sensitive or anything like that, but it could just be an indication of where she's going in the future. So that is a possibility for her, that in the future, she is gonna actually end up betraying Han, and that is part of the reasons why he is so bitter. Because like I said, she's not around in the original trilogy, so something's clearly going to happen to her in the future. And them leaving it open so much, and they're definitely doing something with that storyline. That's definitely continuing on. There's no way it wouldn't. But the reason why I'm hesitant to think that it was just totally this selfless act, there's a couple things. So for one, when I honestly feel like Han had a pretty good shot on Dryden, then QI'RA comes out of nowhere, takes him out, does the whole like, he taught me to find people's weaknesses, and then she kills Dryden. Then when Han's on the beach with Beckett specifically says, Dryden's dead and QI'RA's the one that killed him, and he specifically says, you still have no idea what this is about. It was never about you. And I think that kind of, he specifically calls her a survivor. So I think that links into whatever happened in her past to get her to that position, whatever happened between her and Voss, and then whatever that implies going forward. I think that Beckett knew a lot more about what QI'RA did inside the Crimson Dawn organization, and that's all the stuff that I really want to know what's going on. And I think that glint of red in her eye definitely means more than just simple like, oh, well, she's standing in front of him, so like it would glow. Now that's not to say that she never loved Han, because I honestly do think that she loved Han, and I think she loved Han a lot. I feel like you reuniting with somebody that you were in love with, that you just daydreamed for years and years and years of having adventures with them, and then you have to go through some unspeakable horrible things and do some unspeakable horrible things in your life. Can you just snap back to where you were as kids, or is it just to you better left as a distant daydream? In that final moment when they have that kiss, she actually doesn't really want to break away, and you can tell she's got her eyes closed. She has that last little tentative look thing on her face. And then of course that moment when he's walking away and she just says smile, and says the whole thing about when she imagined the adventures he would have been on, she smiles. But then the second the door closes, she gets this kind of like sad little look on her face before it just goes fully stoic, and then she goes and calls Darth Maul. And I think that exact moment is very much her saying goodbye to that past. That is her saying goodbye to her childhood love, realizing that that's not the person she is anymore, and that's not necessarily where her goals are aligned. And as long as in her mind she sent Han off to be safe, everything's going to be okay, and she can just kind of continue on. And she is now going off to potentially be a new apprentice or some kind of second apprentice in command type thing with Maul, which is really cool and a really interesting direction to take this series. And she is such an interesting character, and there's like so much more that I noticed this time around watching it a second time. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Was she being completely self-sufficient? Was she just trying to further gain herself? Would she just basically get a flashback to her previous life before continuing on the life that she thought she wanted or needed? Or was it to help Han escape? Was it 100% to help him escape? Was it a mix of both? Or is it going to be one of these things where it turns into a mix of both, where she lied to let Han escape, but then she's going to get closer to Maul and actually, become the thing that she probably never wanted to be? So yeah, that's basically gonna do it. This was kind of a weird little character breakdown film theory thing. I don't even know how it turned out. I've been recording for like 24 minutes, which is just not okay, so I don't even know what it's gonna pan out to in the end. But let me know what you guys think of QI'RA as a character. Obviously, with Han going to find Jabba, there's a lot that they can do with that criminal underbelly, and if she's already gonna be a part of that, he'll be right around that area too. So that is going to do it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like stuff like this, please let me know in the comment section down below. I want to do more kind of like video essays, bigger projects, bigger breakdowns like this. And at the asking and the encouragement of many people on YouTube that don't like Twitch, I've started a Patreon. Obviously, you do not have to support me in any way, shape, or form. But if you want to, there's a list of stuff down below. We'll try to do some different perks. That's going to do it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. We are going to try to keep these things up in the future. Have a fantastic day. We'll catch you all later.